So welcome everybody to the Strong Immune Masterclass. I am thoroughly thrilled that you're here and taking part in this, what I feel is a really important conversation for us all to be sharing this evening. My definition of why it's important we are focusing on having a strong immune system is because we are currently destroying our water, our soil, our air, and our microbiome. And our microbiome is basically our gut health, the health of our skin, the health of our brain, everything like that. And if you're thinking about it a little bit more, it really is as above, so below. And what I mean by that is for optimal health, we need to be caring about not only the world, Mother Earth, but also ourselves. So what happens with Mother Earth happens with us and vice versa. We are all linked. Every breath you take has a virus in it, and viruses can live up to billions of years. Viruses should not be feared. There are more viruses on this earth, in the air and in our water than there are stars in our solar system. They are not against us. In fact, they help us and our immune systems and psychological and physiological systems to continuously upgrade. Zach Bush, MD, describes how we are currently midway through the 6th mass extinction, which is at a crucial tipping point of which way we're going to go. And each time we go through a period like this, life comes back more intelligent, more conscious, and upgraded. And it's the old idea that to grow, we adapt and change. So the question shouldn't be, how do I avoid catching a virus? The question instead should be, how do I support my body continuously upgrade and become healthier and stronger? This is a big subject. Immune health is a really big subject. It's not just your gut, it's various organs, white blood cells, proteins called antibodies. It is the most complex organ system aside from your central nervous system. So today we're going to be focusing on what we can proactively do to reduce and prevent sickness and reinforce our immune systems. As a caveat, if you've taken one of my classes before, you'll know that this is one of the most important pieces of information you will hear this evening, which is take what resonates and leave the rest. And what I mean by that is just think about what feels right for you today and don't worry about anything else. Just let it go. It's not your piece. It's not that. So just focus on what's right for you now. And that's good. That's enough. That's great. So the 4 pillars of health. Historically, we've been taught and thought about health as only being about our physical body. And as time goes on, we're starting to understand there's much more, and it's a much more complicated idea than just our bodies. I want you to be thinking about balancing your health by recognizing that we have 4 bodies. And when these bodies are in balance, they are susceptible. The susceptibility of disease or illness is radically reduced or even eliminated. It's not an overnight experience. It takes time. You build it up step by step. So the 4 pillars of health are the emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual bodies. And when they're out of balance, what we need to do is take inventory. We take a curious look at what's going on inside of us and what's going on in our environments. And we start to think about what it is that is happening. And then with that information, we can proactively do something about it. Taking inventory also means that we become aware of our body and how all 4 of these bodies interact with each other. They are not separate, they are completely intertwined, and they are completely, one cannot live without the other. It's important to realize also that your thoughts impact how you feel, and that's one of the bodies that we will be talking about this evening. We want to really practice to learn to communicate with each of them so that we can create liberation and freedom. So what are the 4 pillars of health? Just to explain them a little bit more, we've got the mental body, which is our thoughts, attitudes, judgments, and prejudices. Our emotional body, which is the nervous system, hormones, touch, water, and our emotions like fear. We've got our physical body, which is basically our body and everything within it. And then our spiritual body, which is our connection to all things, including the earth, ourselves, God, the universe, the beyond, the divine, or whatever you want to call it. And when you bring all of those together, that's when you become whole. When you have the balance in all four of those areas, that's when you have balance in your core. That's when the strength inside of you feels really immovable and you have a strong foundation for health. The mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects really do feed into that physical component. And we've often thought, well, our mental health is one thing, our emotional health is one thing, and our spiritual health, maybe it's not even something you've ever thought about, to be honest, are all separate. But actually what we're learning more and more and understanding more and more is like the gut-brain barrier, how the mental health and the emotional health really does affect that physical side, as well as what's going on in your body. So what are the causes of a weakened immune system? Well, actually, it's not about having a weakened immune system. It's that your immune system is in overdrive. It's completely maxed out. So imagine that it's going on and on and on, and it's trying to do its best within the conditions that it's given. So it's dealing with stress, it's dealing with fear, it's dealing with environmental stresses like air quality, soil quality, water toxins, food toxins, chemicals in our skincare, our thoughts, lack of love for ourselves and others, lack of trust in the universe and ourselves, and disconnect from the nurturing aspect of ourselves. And you can see why we have weak immune systems. So let's think about the physical body. Let's focus on that for a moment. What happens is we are dealing with environmental stressors, things like air quality, soil quality, and water toxins. We are dealing with food toxins. All of these things combined are things that our bodies have to deal with on a daily basis. They are everywhere. We are also, when we come into November and the leaves on the trees start to fall down, we also have access to so much more air pollution, which is creating a disease state, a heightened disease state within the body. So that's why we get that flu season in November. And it lasts until April when the leaves start growing back, and then the air is a lot cleaner. So we're much healthier on the inside as well. And we've got toxins in our food. We've got chemicals in our skincare and in our homes. We've got stress and fear. We've got this push, push, push experience of life. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We're much more sedentary, especially throughout lockdown and all of those kind of things where we haven't been able to do as much perhaps as we would do normally. And we've got sluggish livers, and we've got an imbalanced gut biome. And I can imagine that you're reading all this and you're going, wow, that is a bleak picture that she is painting this evening. But it's good news, because I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't just share all of the bad stuff and not give you something empowering and positive for you to be able to do with that too. But it's really, really, really important that we understand what we're dealing with. We understand the kind of situation that we're in. We understand all of the things that are happening within us. Because when we have that information, yes, it's hard to understand and to swallow and to take on at first, but then we can do something positive about it. So the chemicals in our food, pesticides, herbicides are the main ones. They are causing issues in our guts. They're causing issues with our reproductive organs, in our brain and our nervous system. We've got parasites in our gut, which won't be covered in this masterclass. We have viral infections like Epstein-Barr virus and shingles. We have, again, pesticides, herbicides, and loads of glyphosate in our soil. We've got hormones, toxic heavy metals in our water, and eating artificially processed food, which are basically devoid of nutrients, devoid of living water, soluble fiber and oxygen. And then all of that combined with too much processed food is really having a detrimental impact, not only on our liver, but our gut health too. So let's think about how we can help our liver, because when our liver is working properly, our immune system works well, because the liver helps clean your blood. If you've got dirty blood, you can imagine that that's going around feeding all of your cells and everything in your body. You're going to be creating an experience of disease. So what we want to do is really think about making the liver as healthy as possible to make those cells and your blood clean. So we want to be reducing all processed oil, including coconut oil. We want to be reducing all processed food and refined sugar. We want to be thinking about taking out eggs and animal fat and produce. And that doesn't mean that you have to take all of that out. But if you're in a chronic state where your immune system is really, really low and you're constantly getting colds, you're constantly feeling like you're fighting off something, you're feeling sluggish, you've got brain fog, you've got potentially an autoimmune condition, if you've got any sort of viral condition, any reproductive issue, I want you to be taking this really seriously. I want you to be thinking about what you can proactively do to help your body get better. And it starts with the liver and it starts with the gut. So these are the things that you can start doing. And it might sound like it's quite intense and quite a lot, but actually when you start doing it, you start with just one thing at a time. You start taking away one thing and add in as much of the good stuff as you possibly can and crowd out the stuff that doesn't work for you. So I want you to be thinking about adding in wild blueberry powder, which you can get on my website, which is wildcrafted and organic, because let's face it, it's really difficult to get really good quality blueberries all year round, and organic ones are expensive. So getting the blueberry powder is really a positive place to start. Organic turmeric supports the hormones and the central nervous system. Lemon balm tea, not lemongrass, is an antiviral and antibacterial, and it's really calming. Vitamin B12, especially when you're vegan, is really good for your brain health. And vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams twice a day, ideally in powder form to bypass digestion, will be really supportive for your liver and for your immune. And supporting your gut. Your gut is where we absorb nutrients. The gut is where the whole of the immune system really truly stems from. The health of your gut affects not only the quality of your thoughts and your feelings, but also anxiety, stress, fear, all of that kind of stuff stems from the gut. So we want to be thinking about reducing toxins that are coming into the body. We want to be thinking about getting into nature and exposing ourselves to healthy bacteria. There is millions and billions of healthy bacteria outside in the forest. I want you to be thinking about getting outside, getting and breathing in as much as you possibly can and getting that into your body. You can support your gut lining as well, which is where these toxic heavy metals, these chemicals, they sit in the bottom of the lining of your gut and they become permeable. They're like little puncture holes. And that's when you start getting the IBS and gut issues like this, because that permeability starts to weaken and you get all of these toxins coming into the blood through the gut lining. So you want to be thinking about using a product like Zach Bush's Ion Biome, which is all about the cells have something called tight junctions, which hold the cells in place. And when you start to have an overload of chemicals and toxic heavy metals, those tight junctions, they split apart. And that's when the permeability in the gut starts to happen. So what happens is this product helps to tighten the tight gut junctions, so nothing can get through. And when nothing can get through, you have the ability to create a much stronger immune system. And reducing excess stress, because stress, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but stress really affects the hydrochloric acid that's in your gut. And if you can't digest your food, which is what that hydrochloric acid does, then you can't get the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients out of the food to boost your immune system. So what can we do? I like this bit. This is my favorite bit, because now we're onto something that we can actually properly do. Eat an alkaline diet, which basically means whole plant-based foods, including leafy greens and pulses. Eat as organic as possible. You want to be thinking about the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen, which is a list from the ewg.org, which outlines the 12 and 15 foods, the Dirty Dozen, the 12 foods which you should never eat non-organic because they are pesticide laden, and the Clean 15, which are okay to be eating without them being organic. So if you're thinking that organic is expensive, then by using this Clean 15 Dirty Dozen list, that is really helpful. Reduce, eliminate stressors like processed oil, alcohol, refined sugar, processed food, and eggs. All of these things are absolutely devoid of nutrients. They don't bring you anything. Eggs, you might be thinking, well, that's got protein in it, that's probably really good for me. But actually, if you've got any sort of viral condition, eggs are like burner fuel for them. They just exacerbate anything that's going on inside of your body that's already out of balance, and just like shines a massive spotlight on it and makes it even more intense. So if you've got, again, like a autoimmune condition or something that's really out of balance in one of your four bodies, then eggs will be making that much more intense. I want you to be thinking about focusing on nutrient-dense, whole plant-based foods. Nutrient dense is the key here, because the more we can help our body fight infection by giving it antioxidants, the healthier it will be. And your exposure to the outside world is, don't forget, is through your gut lining. What you're breathing in, what you're taking in, the food, the air, the water, it all has to pass out through your gut. And the more we can get out into nature, the more we can really breathe in these positive viruses and microbiomes and all of that kind of stuff that comes into the body, the healthier we will be. And another thing that's really good for getting toxins out of the body, getting yourself feeling nice and refreshed and clean, helping those toxins move out of the skin, is dry brushing. So for those of you who haven't got a dry brush, get a natural bristle, quite hard brush, and you can start at the fingertips and work up each of your arms and legs up towards the body. A really good oil to use with that you can use is rosemary and cypress. They're both really good for helping draw out toxins out of the body. We want to be thinking about plants as medicine. We have evolved through millions of years of eating weeds, wild plants, and dark leafy greens, previously known as leaves. So if we don't eat our veggies with every meal, we may be stopping our immune systems from functioning optimally. It's time to go back to our ancient roots and reconnect with Mother Earth. So what plants should we be focusing on? If there was one slide out of everything that you're going to be seeing this evening of what to focus on in terms of proactive for your physical body, this would be it. I want you to be thinking about eating beans and pulses. Not only are they an excellent source of soluble fiber, which our guts desperately need to create a strong immune system, they also bind onto toxins. So if you have a toxic overload in your body, get those beans in twice a day, 3 times a day, with every meal ideally, and eat them so that they can help flush out those toxins. I want you to be thinking about eating organic kale, the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. And the great thing about kale is the more you cook it, the more nutrients come out. So stick it in with your stews, stick it in with your soups, get it in there, and you will see that it will really start to help. Organic red apples, ideally 3 a day, ideally with the skin on, but if you're not going to do 3 a day, 1 a day is really good. Start eating the red apples, organic red apples. Broccoli heals the lining of your gut and removes environmental pollutants. Red onions are full of antioxidants. And organic berries, again, especially the wild blueberries, They help your central nervous system, and they're full of antioxidants. Nutritional yeast might be something that you're not familiar with. 1 teaspoon of nutritional yeast, that's not the normal raising agent for your bread and things like that. This is the nutritional yeast. 1 teaspoon before exercise has been shown to increase levels of white blood cells. And then all mushrooms, doesn't matter what ones, ideally you want to be looking at the wild ones, but any mushroom, especially white button ones, just the regular ones, you don't have to be all fancy about it. We see that there's a dramatic rise in antibody production when we eat mushrooms every day. And yes, crazy, but camel urine and camel milk, although I really don't recommend it, but incredibly, there are loads and loads and loads of studies that say that this is really amazing, not only for helping with cancer, but also helping with autoimmune conditions and just generally helping with boosting our immune. Luckily, we don't have many camels here in England, but it might be something to keep on your radar, maybe. Ancient antiviral remedies. These are probably things that you're familiar with, but still they should be forming a part of your daily immune system protocol, especially during the winter. So we want to be thinking about lemons because they are antibiotic, antiseptic, and they help detoxify the body, especially the liver. You can take half a lemon, half of a whole lemon, squeeze the whole thing into a glass of water, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and that is a great way to start the day. I'm not talking about a little sliced lemon, not just a little slice like you get in your Coke, or not drinking Coke, by the way, but if you were out and you get a little slice of lemon, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the whole half of the lemon squeezed into your water. Turmeric, which helps strengthen your nervous system and is highly anti-inflammatory. If you're feeling brave, you can get the whole turmeric, peel it, and then juice it. That's great. You can even stick it in the freezer in little ice cubes and use that in your smoothies. But equally, if you just want to get one of the curcumin tablets or turmeric tablets with black pepper from the health shop, then that works too. Garlic is incredible. Ideally raw, but it's still good cooked. It is one of the most antiviral and antibacterial foods on this planet. So if you really are coming down with something and you need some help, then even if you want to just put all of these substances together and knock it back in a flu shot every couple of hours, then you will start to feel a lot better very, very soon. And then ginger, obviously, helps with nutrient assimilation, which basically just means to help your body get as much nutrients into your cells as possible. And it reduces the heat in the liver. So if you imagine that the liver is constantly trying to clean itself, it's all constantly trying to get rid of all of that processed oil, and it holds all of these chemicals and the toxins in it, and that generates a lot of heat. And it's like a generator trying to get rid of all of this stuff and burn it all off, and as it does, it gets hotter and hotter. And that might be, so if those of you who wake up between 3 and 4 o'clock every single morning, it might be because that's your liver's time to start doing its processing. And if it's struggling to do that, then between 3 and 4 o'clock, it might be that you're just waking up. So if that is you, then it might be something that you want to consider focusing your attention on a little bit more. Eating 5 or more servings of whole fruit and vegetables every day can help your body's immune strengthen up by 80%. Most of you on this call, I'm guessing, are already eating a lot of fruit and vegetables anyway. But if your diet is mainly on processed food at the moment for convenience or whatever, there's no judgment here. If you were to add 5 or more servings of whole fruits and vegetables, you would be doing your body the greatest service of all to help you and your immune system get stronger. So let's have a little chat about environmental toxins, because these really do affect our physical body too, and mental health also. Where are they hiding? Most of us probably aren't even aware that there are toxins hiding everywhere in our homes. So primarily in our water, chlorine, fluoride, copper, and hormones. In our homes, there's plastic, aluminium, Teflon, cookware, plug-in air fresheners are one of the worst. Laundry detergents, dry cleaning chemicals, certain types of paint and carpet cleaning chemicals, just to name a few. If again, these might be fine if you've got you're feeling okay normally. But if you've got any sort of autoimmune condition, if you've got any sort of low immune condition affecting you at this time, then environmental toxins are like the silent killers. They are the things that come in and attack your cells aggressively and try to take you down. Basically, they want to grow, they want to proliferate, they want to take over. So we want to be thinking about swapping our things out for clean products. These toxins come in our beauty products, our cologne and aftershave, our perfumes and body lotions, our hairspray, hair dye, talcum powder, our conventional makeup, our spray tans, nail polish and nail polish remover. But again, here we are. How can I empower myself? Well, first of all, that was a whole long list of things. I want you to be thinking about making small changes. Don't overwhelm yourself all in one go. This is a lot of information and it's going to take some time to digest and take some time to make these changes. Start with what you've got, where you are, and that's enough. So even if you start in your bathroom, you go around and you look at the kind of things that you're putting on your skin and swap it for a clean product, or what you're putting in your mouth and swap it for a clean toothpaste, especially your hair. Anything you're putting on your scalp and your hair on your body, that goes directly into your blood. And so I want you to be thinking about swapping those. That's a really good place to start. Eat organic. Once again, those pesticides, those herbicides, they come into the body. See if you can filter your water. Brita filter is a good place to start. I use something called an AquaTrue, which takes away all of that, including chlorine. And it's really, really powerful, but it's an investment. So start where you are, use what you've got. Whatever you can do to filter, start filtering your water. I'd say is probably one of the most important things out of everything we're talking about. And get out into nature as much as possible. You want to be, again, breathing in that microbiome. You want to be breathing in the viruses in your environment. And use low VOC paint. It's very simple. You can ask anybody if you're going to do some painting. Go and ask the local shop where you get your paint from when it opens, and then you can ask them what the low VOC paint is, and they'll point you in the right direction. And being sedentary is one of the greatest factors also in our health. Studies have now proven that 30 minutes of walking, 6 minutes of rebounding, or any activity that you enjoy improves your body's immune strength by 5 times. That's a lot. So what can I do? It's really as simple as going to find something that you enjoy, whatever it is. Like I bought myself a rebounder recently, 60 quid off of Amazon. Not that I condone using Amazon, but what can you do? And I now use that every single day, and my son uses it, and it's really easy. It's in the house. It's very easy to put together. It's very easy to use, and it's just there. And it doesn't have to be you don't have to use it for a long time. So if you're short on time, something like that is really useful. But the more you enjoy something, the more you're going to want to do it. So I'd always opt for something that makes you feel good and that you look forward to doing. Just to also bring to mind that winter time is really a time for most of us to hibernate. We want to be hibernating. We want to be snuggling up. But when you add in hibernation during the winter and you add in all of the parties that we would normally be having, And then add in all the sugary food and the indulgences. Maybe we're comfort eating during this time. Maybe we're just overindulging because we want to, and we look forward to eating more than we normally would. Those things really do start to compromise our immune health and our food and our mood. And we see that so much in our children who are ramped up to the extreme with their sugar normally, with the school doing activities and the parties and all that kind of stuff. And you can see them start to get the bags under their eyes. They start to get lower on their energy. And then after a while, they just crash. We're no different, especially if you're highly sensitive and you're sensitive to people's energies and feelings and things like that. You will be finding it more difficult. And our body's natural tendency is to want to hibernate. But we push against it and we go against that natural rhythm. And yet, what would happen if we did really just truly embrace being inward during this time, hibernating, snuggling with our blankets, and just feeling some time to pause? That's one of the greatest things also that we can do for our immune systems. So there are some essential oils that are really good for helping to reduce toxins in the body. Rosemary, thyme, oregano, the doTERRA On Guard blend, clove, lemon, and rosemary. You can diffuse those. They go up the nostrils into the over the blood-brain barrier, into the brain, into the blood. You can use them directly on your skin. For something like that, I probably make up a rollerball and put them on the bottom of your feet. And then whilst you're sleeping, they can do that, work their magic. If you're somebody who's got a chronic condition of any kind, then I'd start off with really small quantities of the oil, because you can create toxic, letting go of the toxins. And then internally, you can be taking those too. So if you've got like one of the capsules that you can get and you can fill them up yourself, start small and gentle, every couple of hours, 1 drop of each, and slowly work up that way. But if you want to know more, please get in contact with me and we can discuss it. So then let's have a little chat about the emotional body. Our emotional body is our nervous systems, our hormones, touch, and water. It's especially about how we're doing emotionally, and it's represented by how calm or rough our inner waters are, how our thoughts are, and how our dream state is. It's about our head versus our heart intelligent. It's about fear. So often fear is around fear of death, fear of annihilation, things like that, and that will show up in some sort of imbalance within the body. We tend to be reactive as opposed to active from a calm and centered place. We tend to be overly controlling, judgmental, blaming, and repressing emotion. That's what happens when your emotional body is out of balance. What does it look like when it's in balance? We're calm. We're sensing energy signatures inside and in our environment. We're reading our body's messages and impulses, and we're acting on them proactively. We tend to be more of a neutral observer of our own emotions, what's going on inside of us, be curious, be questioning, having a look at and see what's happening inside of us, and then taking 100% responsibility for our emotions, but instead of projecting them out and blaming them onto other people. And it's starting to work with this feeling of unconditional love, which takes practice and time. So it's not something I'm asking you to do right now, but that is what an emotional body imbalance looks like. Maybe you've seen this before, but I'm going to talk you through it now. This is a chain of reaction. So if you imagine the circumstance that you're in right now, let's say COVID or job loss or relationship issues or a dark night of the soul. I'm using something negative just to illustrate this experience. And so that's the circumstance. Then you have the thoughts of the experience, which could be fear, uncertainty, self-doubt. Then you have the reaction, which is I'm either going to ignore these feelings or I'm going to nurture myself. Depending on which way you go, depends on drastically what the outcome is going to be. Either way, you will have a physical reaction that appears in your body. Change your thoughts will change your reaction and will change your outcome, because in this circumstance, the circumstance is neutral. You could put somebody else into your situation, you could put yourself into somebody else's situation, and you would react completely differently. So it all comes down to, for your emotional body to be in balance, it really comes down to working on your thoughts and how you are with those thoughts, what you do with them, how you work with them. And stress is one of those thoughts that we tend to ignore. We know it's happening, we feel uncontrollable, we don't feel that we can do anything about it on the whole. There's stress at work, there's stress in our home, there's stress from COVID, but it has a direct impact on our health. And for many of you, you probably noticed that you get headaches, your jaw gets tight, your heart, you get palpitations, your shoulders and your neck get tight. And those are just some of the early alarm stage ways of your body saying, hey, there's something going on here. These are the early cues of your body going, I need your attention. Let's work together. You're ignoring something. Let's sort it out. What happens is, in terms of your immune system, alarm stage is fine. It's like, okay, we're good. We've got this, no problem. It is absolutely fine because it's going to end. And then when it says, okay, actually it hasn't ended. So then we're in the resistance stage. We're going, all right, this is going on a bit longer than I thought. I'm going to keep going. And then hopefully it's waiting for that pause. It's waiting for that pause where it can rehabilitate itself, calm down and come back to the green zone of the good health. But if we keep pushing, if we keep going, if we keep just trying to ignore the symptoms, we've got too much going on, or we're in a chronic state of anxiety, it does lead to exhaustion. And that's when we have ignored all of the little cues on purpose or not, it doesn't really matter. And the body starts to break down. And that's the direct correlation with what happens with your immune system. The body is starting to break down. It's going, I can't do this anymore. I have been there for as much as I can. I'm trying to keep you alive, but now other things are starting to suffer because all of the other processes are going to stop working shortly. So we want to just keep that in mind. Stress isn't always a bad thing. It can really help us stay motivated and in control. But if it keeps going for too long, it affects our adrenaline, it affects our mood, it affects our thought function, and it affects our health. So if we want to be staying in that green zone, so I'm using the traffic light to explain basically the slide beforehand in a little bit more detail. Imagine you're the green zone. That's when you're calm, when you're relaxed. Maybe you're at home and you're in your hot water bottle and you're watching TV and everything's fine. Your shoulders are relaxed, your jaw's fine, your forehead is just absolutely, you're all fine, you're all good. Then everything is working okay. But what happens is when you start getting into that yellow phase, that increased stress phase, our body starts to have physiological symptoms. And again, if it's not for too long, then it's fine. But if it keeps carrying on and on and on, you stay in that yellow traffic light, and that's when you're in fight or flight. And what I'm representing here on this image is that when you go into fight or flight, everything below the diaphragm stops working properly. And that's because the blood goes to the lungs and to the muscles and to the heart. So it can run or it can fight. And the longer you stay in this yellow zone, the more your body stops working properly. So that's why there are so many people these days who have IBS type symptoms or chronic gut health, because if your blood isn't able to go to your gut health, then you're not absorbing the nutrients for your immune system to grow, and then your hydrochloric acid starts to break down as well, and you just have all of this crazy adrenaline going around in your body, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. If you go up into red is when something really intense is happening, and like a car crash, like a massive death in the family, like a job loss, and you've gone into freeze. So you've gone out of fight, flight, and you've gone into this like state where you're in shock. Everything's stopped. You maybe can't breathe properly. Your body's gone into tension, and that's it. You're just stuck. But what happens is then everything from the neck down stops working properly, and it's like you're just a head being carried around on your body. Everything's happening up here. Everything, you're overthinking, you're looping, everything's going at 100 miles an hour. Your breathing is rapid and shallow. Your heart is hurting. It's aching, or maybe it's just completely numb. Maybe it's completely shut down. If this applies to you, then specifically, if you feel like you're in the red, that would be the time for you to be thinking about asking for expert external help, because somebody needs to help you come back down out of that state. If you're in yellow, it's much easier to use just the tools that we have available to us, like breathing techniques and meditation and yoga and exercise and the things that we talk about in this presentation this evening. But it's this different kind of experience when you get into that red. So if this is speaking to you, I urge you to go and find professional help, somebody who has experience of something like EMDR or somatic therapy, something like that, because after a while your body will start to be deeply affected by your experience. Adrenaline is released when your soul is scared, and that can be when you're in the yellow or the red, or a mixture of the two. Doesn't really matter. But adrenaline is that force, that life force that keeps going with the fight or flight. It floods us, and it doesn't really understand where it's coming from or what the reason is. It just knows it's had a thought, and the thought has had a physiological reaction, and off we go. Like I said earlier, adrenaline and cortisol can keep us motivated and moving forward. But when too much is released, and we go back to that graph about the green, the red, and then we go into that state of exhaustion, when too much is released and we're constantly in that yellow phase, or when we're in the exhaustion phase, it starts to damage our immune cells in the liver. It scorches the cells. In our gut, it reduces the hydrochloric acid. The stomach can't break down the food properly, so it's not getting enough nutrients from the food to reinforce your immune system. It damages the intestinal lining and feeds pathogens like the Epstein-Barr virus and shingles. Your nervous system is on edge. It is like spidey senses are on drugs. It is completely just hyper aware all the time, like a constant panic attack. And brain fog, confusion, and restlessness. Now, this is an extreme experience, but you might be on a sliding scale here, depending on what your day is, depending on what's going on. I want you to be thinking about what adrenaline feels like and the early warning signs of what that feels like when it starts to flood your body. And then put in place the things that you need to bring yourself back down. Adrenaline in the body can make you feel really fatigued. So if you've got adrenal exhaustion, you're constantly push, you're going all the time. Your body is going to be fatigued. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to have many more colds. You're going to feel unmotivated. You're probably experiencing some sort of anxiety, sleeplessness, and insomnia. Depends on how far along the line you are, and obviously it depends on certain things that are going on, but guaranteed that with COVID, a lot of these things are happening. When we're reading the news a lot, when we're in fear a lot, we're going to be having these experiences daily. The good news is, like I say, there is a lot that we can do, and I will be covering that now. So reducing adrenaline takes time, because it's linked to the creation of our neural pathways, which is basically just a behavior that we've had reinforced. So imagine, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, you've got your thought, which then creates an outcome, your behavior, much like what we just talked about. And then when you have had your thought and you've had your behavior, your thought then sees the behavior, which then reinforces the thought, and then you loop over and over and over, creating more of a reinforcement for that same behavior. That's called a neural pathway. It's like a pathway that gets reinforced. What we want to do is create a new pathway, like a circuit breaker in that pathway. And how we can do that is, I've split it into the 4 categories here. So in terms of physical, reducing adrenaline, we can reduce the amount of caffeine, especially if you're highly sensitive. Adrenaline is one of the most critical things that you can be working on if you're highly sensitive, to bring yourself back down into a much greener, calmer state. Refined sugar, alcohol, and stimulants. And if you're anything like me, the older you get, the more you will find that alcohol is a complete mood buster the following day, can even be creating anxiety and depression. So just be aware of the impact of that on your body. Emotional and spiritual, really practice some tools for calming the mind and body, like yoga, like 5 minutes of meditation every day. It doesn't have to be much, just we're training the body to do something different. We're thinking about breathing, we're thinking about walking, we're actively doing things that make us feel like we're bringing ourselves out of a state of heightened awareness and alert. And mental. So at the start of this masterclass, I talked a few times about creating a safe space. I talked about blankets, I talked about pajamas, I talked about the hot water bottles, and that's what I want you to be thinking about too, creating a safe space at home so that you can bring your body back down from that heightened state of awareness, reduce the adrenaline, and get yourself into your safe space when you start to notice those feelings coming up. Nurture yourself. Take hot baths. I read an article the other day about how hot baths and hot water bottles, things like that, the heat feels like a pressure on the body, and that pressure on the body feels like a warm hug, somebody wrapping their arms around you. And just having that tension, that feeling, that positive experience can really help bring the body back down out of that adrenaline state. And again, there are some awesome essential oils for support. If you're highly sensitive, then you'll probably find that essential oils, if you've got a super sniffer like me, really do help, really can help you feel a lot calmer. So essential oils like geranium, frankincense, geranium for the heart, frankincense for especially if you're overthinking and connecting to something greater than us. Frankincense is really good for that deeper connection to something. Rose is amazing for helping you feel nurtured and connected and warm and looked after. Melaleuca is the oil of energetic boundaries, so that can help if you're feeling attacked energetically in any way. Then you can use Melaleuca, just put a drop on the crown of your head and it can reinforce your energetic boundary. And Adaptive is a blend by doTERRA, which is especially designed for states of anxiety, states of extreme and awareness, and just to bring yourself back down. You can put it on the soles of your feet, you can put it in the diffuser, you can take it basically anywhere that works best for you. But these are some very useful tools to be able to help you come back down out of that adrenaline fueled state. So your mental body. We're currently working through 2 different ways of living and being. The old way, which we're moving away from, or in the process of kind of pulling ourselves apart from this old way of being. And it takes time and effort, but this old way is all about pushing and deadlines and achieving, and we're completely disconnected from our bodies and our feelings. And we're all from the head up here, completely thinking over and over and over again. And like my favorite person, well, one of my favorite people, Dr. Sir Ken Robinson, he talks about how we often view ourselves as people who are just bodies carrying our heads around because our heads are the most important thing. But actually, that's where the biggest disconnect has come from. And if you've ever had a panic attack or any sort of anxiety, you know that the awareness goes straight from your body all up into your head and you become hyper aware, but it's all focused up here. What we're trying to do is bring ourselves and connect our heads back with our hearts. the new way, this new way of living and being and connecting with ourselves and our lives is all about feeling, responding, pausing, nurturing and relaxing, listening, living in sync with our hormones and our seasons. That doesn't mean we stop achieving stuff. It doesn't mean that we don't get to do whatever we want to do. It doesn't mean that we haven't got plans, that we're not going to go and do them. But it completely shifts the way that we approach life. It's a much more solid, much more feeling based, and much more truthful. We're not ignoring everything just for the pursuit of a goal. We are instead listening to all of those divine messages that are coming up in our hearts, and we're listening and responding accordingly. And when we're in pain, instead of pushing it down and putting it into a little box and pretending it's not there, which, hands up, I've tried to do many times and has never worked. What we do is allow it. We allow our feelings, we embrace them, we work with them, and we soften this rigidity that we hold inside of our hearts. The rigidity is also what causes our whole body to become tense and on edge. If you imagine that your body is then back in fight or flight, and by softening and relaxing, you're saying to your body, you are safe. You're bringing it back down into that green zone. You're saying, you are safe now. I am nurturing you. I am looking after you. I am listening to the messages that you're giving me, and I'm going to work with you proactively. And then the spiritual body. What is it? The spiritual body is the connection to all things, including the earth, including to ourselves, to what we call God, the universe, the beyond, the divine, higher self. It's a deep trust in something greater than ourselves, and that nothing is a mistake. Even COVID, believe it or not. This provides protection, union, help, and guidance from an outside source, as well as from those who have passed on. And it connects us all to everything that is. And many of us don't understand or acknowledge that this aspect exists. And for many years, I hoped it existed, but I was very doubtful. And now I completely feel it in every part of my core that you, me, and all of us are connected in some way or other. And I have deep trust in something greater than I am that is guiding all of this, good and bad, if you want to label it like that. But nothing is a mistake. But when we cut off our spiritual body, it cuts us off from something that's deeply important to all of us, that maybe this nagging feeling that you didn't know was there, the void inside of you that you maybe try to comfort eat or numb down your feelings, but you know it's a nagging, needing feeling that's been in there. Well, that's when we really want to be thinking about bringing awareness to this spirit body. Because diseases, when we're talking about the spiritual body, manifest in 3 ways. When the heart is blocked, so when we're up here, when the heart is blocked, we become numb. So it might feel like your emotions are offline completely. It might feel that you're emotionally heightened, like you're constantly overthinking, thinking about everything. Everything's coming at you 100 miles an hour. Then the sacral chakra is wounded or stuck in fight or flight. And then the sacral chakra, that's where the kidneys are. So there's lots of fear happening in that area. And then your base chakra, that's where, if that's unstable, that's when we start to feel totally unsafe. So you can see, if all of these aren't working, it's like a complete blockage of energy. Energy wants to move up and down nice and gently. It wants to go freely from top to bottom and then back up again. And if there's a blockage in one of these areas, it's like it gets a detour off somewhere else, but it wants to come back into alignment. So the universe will give you things that pop up in your everyday to try and bring that back into alignment, which might feel like it's an annoyance, but actually it's a gift. I promise. So just in terms of a visual representation, thinking about the solar plexus, that's our digestion. So like you saw earlier, when we're talking about our physical body, then anything below the diaphragm, if we start getting into fear or fight or flight, it really does affect our digestion. The second chakra, again, the kidneys, but also your sexual organs. So if you've got anything that's going on in that area, then it's likely there's some sort of emotional blockage, spiritual blockage there, as well as probably toxic heavy metals forming some sort of barrier or dis-ease in that place. And then your first chakra, which is your grounding mechanism, the thing that whenever something wants to move you off track, but you know you are solid and key, grounded, if that's not there, then you are going off loads and loads and loads. You are absolutely on a mission when it feels like you're in fight or flight all the time and your adrenaline is pumping and pumping and pumping. So if that feels like you in terms of your subtle, your spiritual body, your subtle body, these are the things that I really recommend. They seem simple, but actually if you practice just one of these every single day, you will see that there's a massive shift and difference that happens really quickly. So one of the first things would be meditation. Like I said earlier, 5 minutes every single day. It doesn't take long. I've had really major shifts in 5 minutes. I promise you, just keep doing it every single day. Become curious with your thought. Instead of being no, I shouldn't be thinking that, or just push it down, just go, oh, what's that? Let's investigate, or oh, that was an interesting thought. Become a curious, neutrally observing person. And that takes practice. If you want to know more about how to really cultivate that, then you can have a look at the Illuminate Masterclasses that I do on my website, or we can work together. But it is something that really helps to draw out that charge of the emotion that we get, which then has that adrenaline rush and pumping. So it's all about reducing the trigger that happens and finding that calm, peaceful state. And then creating a non-attachment to outcome. Oh boy, I think out of everything, this is the thing that I have found the hardest to do. My will is strong, ask my parents, and I really, really, really want to control what's going on, but I know that is just my ego talking. And when I recognize that there's something greater and bigger at play here, whether you want to call it the universe, your higher self, God, I don't know, whatever works for you, that knows something greater than you, then you can release this attachment to outcome. You can go, okay, over to you now. I've done my best. I've literally done my best, and I'm going to trust in you that something else is going to come out of this. And then nurturing, deep nurturing, practice nurturing every single day. Anytime you have a trigger, anytime you have an intense feeling or emotion that comes up for you, say to yourself, how can I be kind to myself? How can I be gentle with myself now? And then get outside, get grounding in nature. Again, always back to nature. And then practice energetic boundary setting. And I put a little picture on this slide to help you understand what it looks like. But basically, it's creating a shield around you. And I've got a free meditation that's a guided visualization meditation on my website. And I can send it out to you tomorrow with the email with this masterclass. But it's very simple, very easy to do, but it's creating spiritual immunity. And if you do it twice a day, first thing in the morning and before bedtime, you will find that you will start to slowly feel much, much stronger inside. And when you feel stronger inside, it radiates outwards as well. And then visualizing of a strong base. So a really important part of the energetic boundary setting is you see in this visualization, in this picture, that this person has got this really strong base. And that's back to that base chakra. The stronger your base, the more that this central column can sit strongly and securely in the middle of it. And when something comes along to swipe you and knock you over, it's just like a weeble. You wobble a bit, but you come back to your center. And this strong base is really important for creating that. So I want you to stay curious. I want you to be kind and gentle with yourself. If you take anything out of any of this tonight, it would be that. I want you to think about other ways of nurturing yourself and create a little list for yourself. And I've just put some ideas of things that I do on here. And they're all things that we've talked about this evening, like creating a safe space, cuddles, hot water bottle, Epsom salt bath, essential oils, walk in nature, dry brushing. Whatever works for you. This is your recipe. This is your experience with your body. Get to know it, get to know your heart, get to know your spirit, get to know your body and what it's asking for, and become that investigator in those 4 bodies to bring them into balance. There will be times that you feel lost and lonely. And when you do, I want to remind yourself that these feelings do change. Keep focusing on your daily intention and your goal of liberation and freedom. And know that you're not alone and you've never been alone. And ask for help. So putting it all into practice. Take your time. Please take your time. This isn't a rush. My aim has always been to get to the end point as fast as I possibly can. But what I've realized is actually by the time I think I've got to the end, it doesn't make any sense anyway. So I need to come back to the beginning. So just take your time, pick the bits that work for you and put those into practice. Focus on one thing from each of the 4 pillars. Really become aware of what triggers your adrenaline, whether that's in those 4, whether that's alcohol, whether it's food, whether it's certain situations and people. And it doesn't mean that you have to cut them out. Just bring your awareness to them, and then you can do something with them if you want to. And there's a worksheet that I'm going to send each of you out to fill in that will take this experience on a much deeper level. And I'll send that to you tomorrow with the replay of this masterclass. And it's all about learning and identifying how you can nourish your soul. And once you do that, then you can really help build your immune system. I want you to honor your pace, honor your heart and your process. You are unique. I could be sitting here and telling you, do this, do this, do this, do this. But actually, I want you to find out what works for you. What is your body's messages? What's coming up for you? And really listen to your immune system, because it will be wanting to communicate and talk to you all the time. But if now you stop and have a listen to it, then that is a really positive experience. And also honor the seasons, the natural rhythms and your cycles. So for those of you who are women that are joining the call this evening, you'll have times when you're ovulating where you have more energy, and there'll be times when you're menstruating when you have less energy. Put them in your diary and work your life accordingly to these experiences so you can be nurturing and kind to yourself. And try to stop pushing so hard. When the season is calling for you to go inward, go inward. Don't keep pushing on through it, because that is when you're going to cause even more disease. And if you have been on one of my masterclasses before, you'll know that this is a slide that I put on every single time. We want change to happen A to B and to be the fastest route possible. And yet, when we do experience change, what it feels like is a big jumbled mess, and we don't know what we're doing. And sometimes it feels like there's no point, and we're not entirely sure whether we're at the end or the beginning or the middle. But what it actually is an ever decreasing circle. So it might feel like you're coming back to square one, but there's been so much life experience and so much learning on that journey that every time you come back, you are ever decreasing back to that solid base that you are creating. So if you would like to take a journey with me, what I would suggest is take what resonates, leave the rest. Remember, we integrate learning in layers, and it takes time. But if you would like to go deeper, some of this information has resonated with you, you want to explore it more, or you're stuck on something. One of the things that I'm really good at doing is finding what's blocking you and helping you to release that. I do those in one-to-one sessions and transformation sessions too. For more self-directed learning, then you could have a look at the Inner Child Healing. They're called the Illuminate Masterclasses, and they're on my website. But you can always contact me if you want some more information or want to chat over something too. Remember, we are all doing our best, and that's great. That's enough. Okay. And that's it. So,